Hello friends. Today we are going to discuss business cycle. It is also known as a trade cycle. In this particular lecture, we are going to discuss meaning of business cycle or trade cycle, various features of trade cycle, phases of business cycle or trade cycle, and its classification. What is business cycle or trade cycle? A term business cycle refers to economy-wide fluctuation in the production, trade, and general economic activity. It means it is a fluctuation in the production level, fluctuation in the trade and commerce, and various changes in the general economic activities. From a conceptual perspective, the business cycle is the upward and downward movement of the level of gross domestic product, or that is national income, and refers to the period of expansion and contraction in the level of economic activities around the long-term growth trend. It means the business cycle is nothing but it is a fluctuation in the various economic activities including production level, employment, investment, price level, profit of the organized business organizations, trade, consumption level, and overall economic activities. James Keynes explained that the occurrence of the business cycle is the result of fluctuation in the aggregate demand which bring the economy in short-term equilibriums that are different from the full employment equilibrium. John Maynard Keynes assumes that there is a certain level of full employment in the economy. When economy reaches to the full employment level, then the downtrend will be begins with various factors of the economic activities such as a price level, consumption level, and production employment also. But it is a most important effect of the change or fluctuation in the aggregate demand in the market. According to Keynesian model of the business cycle, he explained that it is a periodic business cycle but imply cyclical response to shocks via multiplier. It is a investment multiplier. The extent of the fluctuation depends on the level of investment or the determine the level of aggregate output. It means the business cycle or trade cycle is the effect of cyclical changes in the investment level, accordingly the money multiplier and investment multiplier. There is a combined effect of the aggregate demand, investment, and multiplier also. Overall, the business cycle is the fluctuation in the various economic activities. These are the some important features of the business cycle or trade cycle. It is a cyclical fluctuation which is recurring in the nature. It means the business cycle is not one-time phenomenon. It is a continuous process or recurring process in the nature. In various economies, there are different types of phases and duration of the business cycle. There is no similarities in the various phases of the business cycle or trade cycle in the various economy. A trade cycle contains self-generation forces which tend to terminate one phase and bring the other phase of the cycle. It means it is a self-generating process. End of the one phase is the beginning of the next phase. It is a recurring process or continuous process. A trade cycle is the cumulative self-reinforcing. It is a self-reinforcing cumulative process. Trade cycle are preventing in the impact. They affect the virtually every part of the economy. Many times, the business cycle begins in the one sector and it influences another sectors of the economy. It means in the specific period of time, it leads to another sector, it influence to another sector of the economy, that is agriculture sector, trade and commerce sector or trade and services sector, and industrial sector also. Jane Keynes pointed out that the trade cycle is characterized by the presence of crisis. It means many times the trade cycles are brings the crisis in the economy. It may be investment crisis, consumption crisis, or demand side crisis. Business cycle by and large follow a pattern of development. The business cycles leads to development process also. Business cycle occurs periodically. It is a periodical in nature. It is a synchronized in nature, which means that change not occur only the single industry but in the whole industry or in the whole economy also. Business cycles are the international in character. It means many times the business cycles are influenced by various international factors along with the national factors also. Many times the phases of the business cycles are begins with the influence of the domestic factors, that is the national level factors, and many times it influence with the international factors like foreign direct investment, changes in the consumption level in the various economies in the world, and various types of economic and non-economic factors in the international economy also. Investment and consumption of the durable goods are the most affected by the business cycle. It is found that it is seen that the investment and consumption of the durable goods are mostly affected in the business cycle. The cycle will not have identical spacing, and thereby the asymmetric in the nature of the business cycle exhibits at a different time period of occurrence. It means the every business cycle is not a similar in case of time space or the duration of the phase. Many times it is found that each business cycle have a different time space, or each phase of the business cycle have a different time. Most of the microeconomic variables are affected by the cyclical movement. With the business cycle, the many economic variables are changed according to influence level and impact of the international and national factors. These are the important phases of the business cycle. Generally, there are four main phases of the business cycle. One is peak, another is recession, next is depression, expansion, and peak or recovery. These are the some important phases of the business cycle. Expansion, that is the first stage in the business cycle, that is the expansion. In this stage, there is an increase in the positive economic indicators such as employment, income, output, wages, profit, demand and supply of the goods and services. Debtors are generally paying their debts on time. The velocity of the money supply is high and investment is high. This process continues as long as economic conditions are favorable for the expansion. It means if the all economic situations or conditions are favorable, the employment will be increased, income, output and wages along with the profit and demand and supply of the goods will be increases. That is known as a expansion phase. But it ends with the peak. Peak is the topmost situation of the economy. It is also known as a saturation point of the economy, or it is known as a peak point of the economy, which is the second stage of the business cycle. The maximum limit of the growth is attained by the economy, then the recession will be begins in the economy. The economic indicators do not grow further and at their highest level. Prices are their peak. The stage marks a reversal point in the trend of the economic growth. consumer tends to restructure their budgets at this point. It is the highest economic developmental stage of the economy. After achieving this particular phase of peak or the saturation point of the economy will begin with the recession in the particular sector or in the various sectors in general. Third stage is recession. Recession is the last recession is the stage that follow the peak phase. It followed by the peak phase or the saturation phase of the economy. The demand for goods and services starts declining rapidly and steadily in this particular phase. It means in case of recession, the demand for goods and services will be declining rapidly or steadily. Producers do not notice the decrease in the demand instantly and go on the producing, which creates the saturation of the excess supply of the market situation of the excess supply in the market. It means in case of recession, the producer are going to produce more goods and services. It leads to excess supply of the goods and services in the market, and it leads to fallen prices. It means the prices will be declining or it will be fall. All positive indicators such as the income, output, wages, and other economic factors consequently start to fall. It means it is the fallen situation of the economy. This is the beginning of the depression. Depression is the most important phase in the business cycle or trade cycle. It is the worst situation of the trade, production, and economic activity. There is an adequate rise in the unemployment. The growth in the economy continue to decline, and as this fall below the steady growth line, the stage is called as a depression. In case of depression, the prices are fallen, production level is fallen, and the employment also will be lowest stage. Next is through. In this depression stage, the economic growth rate becomes the negative. There is a further decline until the prices of the factors as well as the demand and supply of the goods and services contract to reach their lowest point. The economy eventually reaches as the through. It is the negative saturation point of the economy. There is extensive depletion of the national income and expenditure also. It means in case of this fifth stage, the economy will be fallen into low level income trap and also low level employability trap also. Sixth is the recovery. Depression or recession or the through stage will not be continued continuously. In such in the particular situation, the economy will be tries to grow and its begin is known as a recovery. After through, the economy moves to the stage of recovery. In this phase, there is a turn in the economy and it begins to recover from the negative growth rate. Demand starts to pick up due to the low price and consequently the supply begins to increase. The population develops a positive attitude toward the investment and employment and production starts increasing and eventually the economy will reach at the expansion peak period. Again it will be leads to the recession phase. These are the some important phases of the business cycle or trade cycle. It is a continuous process. There are different types of business cycles or trade cycles. First is Kitchen cycle. According to Joseph Kitchen, this is the most important type of the business cycle. Joseph Kitchen discovered a cycle in the 1920s, and according to him, the duration of the trade cycle is 40 months and it emerged as a result of the time lag in the information movement in the taking decisions. According to him, boom occurs when the commercial situation improves, firms increase output, they use the fixed capital asset fully. So Within a short period of time, a few months, quantity demand will be more than the quantity supplied, and hence the result is excess supply. Depression occurs when the demand decreases due to the fall in the price and the production of produced commodities get accumulated in the inventories. This informs the entrepreneurs to reduce the output and commodities get accumulated as inventories. This is the very small or short period trade cycle. It is known as a kitchen cycle. Next is jugular cycle. Jugular cycle, the concept is interpreted by the Clement Juglar. It is a French physician and statistician. He explored the economic cycle in the 1860s. According to him, the periodicity of the cycle range between the 8 to 11 years. He explained the fluctuation in the economic activity theoretically or statistically and the historical basis. According to him, the credits and banks are responsible for the fluctuation. It is a credit cycle with the speculative behavior that result into alternating period of the crisis and prosperity. Speculation followed by the easy credit, emergence of new market, speculative investment, credit creation by the bank are the all responsible the emergence of crisis. According to him, the crisis is rooted in the prosperity period. According to Juglar, the development of the capitalism was the source of the fluctuation and no industrial development in the possible without crisis. He believed that the development and diffusion of the innovation and development of the technology are the reason behind the trade cycle. It means the Juglar's trade cycles are having the period of 8 to 11 years. Third is the Kuznets trade cycle, a cycle of economic activity lasting between the 15 to 20 years that acquired the name of the first economist to study it, the Nobel Prize laureate Simon Kuznets. The Kuznets cycle is the attributed to the investment in the housing and building construction. Hence, it is also known as the building trade cycle, and it is well known among the professionals in the real estate market. This is one of the four separate cycles of the microeconomic activities that have been documented and hypothesized. The other three are the kitchen cycle, jugular cycle, and contractive cycles, a cycle of the economic activity lasting between the 15 to 20 years that acquired the name of the first economist to study the Nobel laureate Simon Kuznets. The Simon Kuznets is attributed to investment and housing and the building construction and is well known among the professional in the real estate market. It means the Kuznets trade cycle, also known as a building trade cycle, and it is related to housing sector, building construction sector, or it is related to real estate sector. And fourth is Kondratiev trade cycle. Russian economist Nikolai Kondratiev found a cycle in the price, and the theory is based on the 19th century study about the price behavior, wage, interest rate, and raw material. There will be an expansion of the capital goods in the capitalistic economy. According to him, the most relevant cause of the demographics, birth rate fluctuation affect the age distribution of the population. Lumps of the people with the similar age until they die of the old age result in boom. According to him, the birth rate is very low during the depression. When the economy is stable, the birth rate will be higher. Post-war, there was a baby boom. Impact of the population in the age distribution of the people results in the fluctuation. When the population reaches at the ages between the 15 to 25, the gets job, cash, house, and household equipments, and hence the capital formation increases and expenses will be higher, which result in a boom. Kondratiev has attached the much importance to the long wave and the advance the hypothesis that they are the inherent constituents of the capitalistic process rather than the result of the random factors. For his study, he relied upon the statistical data concerning wage, interest rates, wholesale prices, export, import, and production in the Britain, France, and United States. It means this particular type of the business cycle is depend upon the statistical data collected from the Britain, France, and United States. These are the some important types of the business cycle.